Narrator: the collapse of Russian aviation. Planes are falling one after another. The enemy has started to experience serious problems. This can no longer be hidden behind the usual excuses. The situation is under control. It's all because of the war? There aren't enough spare parts, and aircraft are falling apart in flight. The enemy is trying to hold on with all its might, but it's in vain. The number of lost aircraft is simply staggering, and the forecasts are shocking. What is really happening in Russia right now? Could it really be that soon the skies will be free of iron birds and Putin's air fleet will be grounded forever? We'll talk about this in just a moment.
Narrator: since the beginning of 2005, at least 5 military aviation crashes have been recorded in Russia. One of the most recent incidents was the crash of a Mi-8 helicopter in the Khabarovsk region. According to the official version, the cause was weather conditions. However, Ukrainian experts link the disaster to a shortage of spare parts due to Western sanctions, since the aircraft was flying after a major overhaul.
Andriy Kovalyov. It has become very difficult to replenish supplies now, and so we hope that some of the incidents that occur, positive ones in the form of crashes or other incidents involving Russian military aviation, are in one way or another partially or fully a result of the sanctions restrictions.
Narrator: in addition to the shortage of spare parts, expert Anatoly Krapchinsky notes that the intensive use of aircraft in the war against Ukraine does not allow for timely and proper maintenance of the aircraft.
Anatoly Krapchinsky, active military operations during combat, and the unfortunate inability to fully carry out timely and essential maintenance inevitably leads to significant consequences that result in such challenging problems. Additionally, it should be noted that there are long-standing persistent issues such as certain hydraulic components that the Su-34 aircraft suffer from.
Narrator: according to the Ukrainian Foreign Intelligence Service, losses in civil aviation are projected to be between 50 and 100 aircraft per year. In 2027, the industry may face a collapse.
Andriy Kovalyov. As for civil aviation, we can see that 50% of their fleet of Airbuses and Boeings is already grounded due to the inability to service them. Well, for example, in May of this year, there were 5 incidents in 1 week, 5 incidents in just 1 week.
Russia is trying to circumvent the sanctions. According to one Finnish media outlet, after February 2022, aviation spare parts worth at least 1 billion euros were delivered to Russia. The main supplies come through third countries, particularly Kazakhstan.
At first, there was a clever scheme where companies were opened by Russia, for example, in Kazakhstan. And the logistics of deliveries from the European Union, or generally from the European continent to Kazakhstan, actually go through Russia. And Russia calmly bought these goods through Kazakhstani firms, but they never actually reached them. The European Union realized this, and so they added a ban on the transit of sanctioned goods to the sanctions.
Before the full-scale invasion, Russia actively used wet leasing, renting planes from the EU and operating them under its own brand. After the start of the full-scale war, the Russians refused to return these aircraft.
And this meant that the sanctions imposed against Russia, among other things, included a ban on the supply of various parts that could be used in civil aviation. At the same time, this was formally classified under the category of dual-use goods.
In 2024, due to technical malfunctions, 34 out of 66 Airbus aircraft were taken out of service, mostly because of engine or landing gear problems. To carry out repairs, aircraft are sent to Russia from so-called friendly countries. There, they signal a malfunction, turn off the radars, and then the planes are dismantled for parts and used to repair their own aircraft.
According to data from 2024, about 18 aircraft arrived in Russia and did not leave the country. Some of them are Airbus planes. That's it. So once again, these planes either became part of aviation cannibalism, or some of them could have even joined the fleets of Russian airlines in full working order.
The situation is further complicated by sanctions against Russian banks. Gazprom Bank, which previously made payments via SWIFT for aircraft components from third countries, can no longer do so. Now, transactions are carried out through smaller banks.
Aviation is directly linked to energy resources. Accordingly, we are seeing related difficulties, which is why they had to redirect financial flows to other banks. Why did they do this? They did this, so we keep saying, gentlemen, Gazprom Bank is great. There are about 100 Russian banks under sanctions, which is great, but they have over 300 banks in total, so let's sanction all of them.
Meanwhile, the Russian authorities are reporting successes in import substitution in aviation. However, instead of the planned 108 aircraft in 2025, they produced 15 times fewer.
If we talk specifically about civilian aircraft, Russia produced 7 planes, according to preliminary data, but these were not aircraft built from scratch. Mainly, it was about completing the assembly of aircraft that were already at the aviation plants.
According to the Center for Countering Disinformation, the Russian authorities presented the flight of an allegedly fully Russian-made aircraft as a breakthrough. But even now, most of the components are imported.
We take someone else's aircraft, copy it, and then start buying foreign components for it. And whatever we can partially make ourselves, we'll make ourselves. We have aluminum, we can rivet the fuselage together, we can do that. They produced about 232 planes, if I'm not mistaken. Well, they produced them, and thank God for that. They started crashing, they started having accidents. The State Duma even passed a law prohibiting the use of these planes.
Russian civil aviation also suffers because priority is given to military aircraft. Even before the full-scale invasion, Russia was actively stockpiling components for combat aircraft. These are now being used for repairs.
In 2023-2024, this number was significantly lower and, according to various estimates, ranges from 16 to 22 aircraft each year, respectively. This year, it is expected that Russia will be able to produce no more than 12 military aircraft.
Until 2014, Russia hardly produced any aircraft components on its own and actively used the capacities of Ukrainian enterprises. After the occupation of Crimea and the start of hostilities in Donbass, Ukraine terminated all relevant agreements.
After 2014, when Russia lost the ability to actively access Ivchenko Progress and Motor Sich, it has suffered significantly in this area, specifically with aircraft engines. Their development efforts have failed, and they are unable to produce high-quality engines. Moreover, they are unable to repair the old engines that are currently in operation.
In the 11 months of 2024, there have been 208 aviation incidents in Russia. That's a quarter more than in 2023. Almost every second case was related to engine failure or landing gear malfunction. Experts predict that these numbers will only continue to rise. Dmytro Shulha, Rada television channel for the summary program Yedini Holovne.
The Kupiansk direction is ablaze. The enemy attacks in waves, but our forces give them no chance. Grad rocket launchers rain down a barrage of fire on the occupiers. Everything around shakes from the strikes, and Russian positions are blown into the air. Our defenders operate precisely and mercilessly. This is a real battle for every meter of Ukrainian land. Watch powerful footage from the epicenter of events next.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism, and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
In a minute, the silence of these picturesque fields near Kupiansk will be shattered by the sound of Grad rockets. No, I'm not going. The first to arrive is the spotter. This is the person who has to calculate the direction of fire and is responsible for the accuracy of the strike. The Grad truck itself won't stay in the field a minute longer than necessary.
Get out of here now! Back up!
They rush to the firing position quickly and set up just as fast.
Yarik! Can you hear me?
Ready! They quickly aimed, and over the tops of the sunflowers, the rocket artillery opened fire. You work pretty loudly. How can you possibly hear if there's something in the sky directly above you, perhaps a predator?
Well, for that, we have 2 or 3 people watching. The driver and everyone else all keeping an eye on the sky while the commander and I are working.
You're the driver and the crew, right? But I saw that while the guys were working, you were standing...
I'm watching the sky. That's absolutely right. We even have a special story for this, well, for shooting them down.
What type of drones are most common here in this direction?
Everything they have in their arsenal, everything they've got, it's all flying here. Especially since we have a very attractive priority target. They're chasing us all over this area. 12 gauge, 10 rounds. Well, sometimes it's good, to put it simply.
And who were you in civilian life?
A driver.
Me too, a driver.
Yes.
So what did you transport?
Well, I worked as a long-haul trucker. I've been just about everywhere. I'm 53 years old. And since I was 20, I've spent 33 years behind the wheel.
And now you're still driving.
And now I'm still driving.
Targeting point restored. Ready.
In all our years working at the front, we've never seen anything cuter on a soldier's chest. Please tell us about your, I don't know, are these Motankas dolls? Yes, they came from volunteer networks. They were Motankas, little angels, and children's drawings. They remind you of civilian life, of something truly bright. So when you look at them, it makes you feel happier and more at ease. The children at the schools there collect nets for us, they weave them. And of course, with every volunteer package we receive, there's always some kind of toy, a children's toy. I hang them up where I am. It looks extremely contrasting with what you do when you're working. What does it give you when you put it on and see it on yourself?
Well, I kind of understand precisely who we are doing this important work for and who we are defending our territories from, specifically from the orcs.
Today we walked in a planting area where the enemy had gathered. Usually this means preparation for an assault, as the artillerymen know.
Yes, the officers reported that there were hits. Well, that's good. So we chased those idiots around a bit.
And do you chase them often?
I wish it were more often, but only when ordered. As soon as there's an order, some specific or difficult situation, if it's an assault or they're preparing for one, then yes, they send out our Swallow and we give them a show.
How often do the Russians launch assaults here, and how often do you have to chase them like this?
Well, in fact, the assaults never really stop. It all depends on the amount of equipment. Sometimes it's just one motorcycle, sometimes it's 10.
The account details are there on the screen. By scanning the QR code, you can support the artillerymen of the Karadag Brigade of the National Guard. Here, in the Kupiansk direction, they are stationed after several months of hell in Pokrovsk.
It's a truly good and deeply satisfying feeling when you've effectively helped your brave comrades on the very front line and successfully managed to hold back the relentless orcs, let's say, during a crucial and intense attack. And, you know, it's motivating when you're covering your fellow soldiers and they're holding their ground out there. I also started out in the infantry once, so I understand how tough it is there.
How long were you in the infantry?
I spent a year in the infantry.
Maria Malevska, Alexander Brinza, IHR Srebrian. Vikna STB, United News.
That's all from me for now. This was me, Darina Hutsakalo. Even more intense news from the front in our next episode. And in the meantime, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. See you soon!